Good afternoon. My name is Cameron Luke, and I will be presenting to you my shigellosis and how it's antibiotic resistant in the United States and the impact it holds. How infectious can this bacteria really be? Shigellosis is an intestinal infection that can also be known as bacterial dysentery. A common symptom of that is diarrhea, which is often seen. And it impacts people and it could lead to death because it's antibiotic resistant and it's not really a treatment for it. Target groups that are typically found is for children under the age of 5 or younger. It can also be found in immunocompromised people and elderly people. It can also be found in MSM, which is men having sex with men, and that's through anal. It can also be found in contaminated food and water. The origin of this is started in Japan with a microbiologist named Kiyoshi Shiga. It was founded in 1897 and it entered the U.S. in 1898, leading to 450 cases yearly in the U.S. because of no antibiotic treatment. Causes of this can come from touching your mouth. It can come from eating contaminated food and ingesting contaminated water. An example of touching your mouth is fecal oral transmission. So that means that, let's say you're changing a baby's diaper, you don't wash your hands afterwards, and then you go and eat something, or you go and touch something. That is easily how you can get contaminated with this bacteria. Eating contaminated food could be such as a chef. He goes to the back, cooks the food. The bacteria is on his hand. He passes it through the food onto your plate as the customer. You ingest it, and that is how you receive the bacteria. As well as the same thing for drinking contaminated water. Symptoms from shigellosis is, like I said previously, diarrhea. If diarrhea isn't typical diarrhea for this bacteria specifically, you'll most times have blood or mucus in your stool, and that is a clear symptom of this bacteria. Shigella is the bacteria itself, but shigellosis is the disease that it creates. Another symptom could be fever. Having a high temp fever could be a cause of this. That means that there's an infection present. Another symptom could be stomach pain as well as cramps. You'll be aching, bent over in a position such as him right here. You could also be vomiting, throwing up, and you could also have the failure, to understand the pain that you're feeling. You might feel like you have to poop when really in reality you don't. And that is the symptoms of shigellosis. Antibiotic resistance and how it is made for shigellosis. There are 5 different types of ways it could be antibiotic resistant. One could be natural resistance. And it means that some strains are resistant to antibiotics based off the structure of the cell wall. Each bacteria has a different type of cell wall, so for this specifically, the drug is being prevented from pushing through the cell, preventing the antibiotics to work. Another type of resistance is gene resistance. The bacteria genes is resistance through horizontal gene transfer, meaning that there's DNA that is being transferred between different bacteria. Another type of resistance is mutations. In mutations, Shigella can grow and become resistant in mutations with its own genes. So your own DNA basically creates those mutations against the antibiotic. Another one could be the overuse of antibiotics. If you're using it too much or you're using it past the prescribed reason, then it could cause a resistance and not making it want to work for the original purpose that it was set for. Shigellosis has 3 features of itself specifically. This is the bacteria in the bottom right corner. It is rod-shaped. So it being rod-shaped, it is heat resistant, and for it to be non-motile, the bacteria relies on the cell's host to maneuver it, and that's where it creates the infection. And it is also gram-negative, and that impacts the digestive tract, leading to an infection. This comes from poor hygiene and poor sanitation, so it is stressed out that you continue to keep your hands washed to prevent this from happening. How does shigellosis spread? It can spread through both direct and indirect contact. With direct contact, You're going to have fecal oral transmission. That means that the body part of a person encounters another pathogen through improper hygiene, and that is how you receive it. Through indirect, you're touching different things to get in contact with that bacteria, such as opening a door to a restaurant, or putting your hand on the table, or eating contaminated food, or drinking sewage contaminated water that contains the Shigella bacteria. An example of kind of like how it's transferred is, so the bacteria is present. You'll get it on you'll acquire the bacteria on your hand through maybe like opening a door or something, and then the bacteria will then spread into the food that you're eating or cooking or touching. And after it spreads to that, it will enter the body. And entering the body could lead to the many symptoms that we talked to, such as diarrhea or vomiting, and it can spread to an infection. How to treat this bacteria. So because it is antibiotic resistant, that means that many antibiotics don't work. It is different strengths to antibiotics, and Shigellosis is made up of 4 components of bacteria. Each of those strains are resistant to many common antibiotics that are needed to treat it. So that wouldn't necessarily work. However, azithromycin, that is a common common antibiotic that is seen. At times it can work. It was first known as the first line antibiotic, but is now pushed back because of how resistant it has become. You can also just keep your hands washed. That's really how you avoid this overall. With the proper sanitation, keeping your hands washed is how you avoid acquiring this infection. These are some statistics of how it was found in the U.S. and how it continues to rise. You see that there is no real decrease. You had this minor decrease between 2016 and 2017, but you see the major rise that it made. That's because the antibiotics are no longer working, and there are vaccines in place set for this. However, it has not been cleared to sell and distribute to patients. And along with that, at least $93 million have been used in healthcare to treat this antibiotic. Some interesting facts can be that it increases yearly first. The symptoms can last 2 weeks after the diarrhea has ended. So even though the main symptom that you may see has gone, doesn't mean that the bacteria has left your body. It's going to take a while. Another symptom is that the bacteria only survives for months on a long dry surface. That's how long the bacteria can typically stand for. But it's a matter of how you treat your symptoms, since it's no antibiotics to lower. The mortality rate did rise too, based off of the fact that there is no antibiotic to treat the system. And this is my Shigellosis PowerPoint and how it is antibiotic resistant in the U.S. These are my resources, and thank you.